Do you want to know how to deal with sensory processing disorder? Well, I have some experience with that. My name's Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting and good communication all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about what you can do to handle sensory processing disorder. In this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about what sensory processing disorder is. You probably already know some of that, but there might be something that surprises some of you. And then also what you can do to help your child who has sensory processing disorder be able to thrive in society. For many years, I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens. They were all between the ages of 12 and 18, and some of them had sensory processing disorder. Now, at the time, that wasn't something that I had really a lot of information about, but after you live with multiple people who are sensitive to different things, you start to understand sensory processing disorder pretty well. Now, one key thing about sensory processing disorder is the amount of anxiety that a person usually has. So oftentimes what happens is a person has heightened senses. So maybe lights are too bright, or sounds are too loud, or there's a certain type of sound that they can't really handle. There might be smells that are problems, or they might have super taste where they taste things more acutely than other people. So those are all senses, so sensations that a person might have, but it seems a little bit more exaggerated than what your normal person might experience, even if it is already a loud noise. It then seems like a clanging and a banging, and even worse than what somebody else often recognizes. Now, sometimes you see people with sensory processing disorder, they wear like headphones maybe to kind of like cancel out some of the sound that's around them because it's just too much, in that particular environment that they might be in. Okay, so sensory processing disorder, in that particular circumstance, the person is going to have higher levels of anxiety. They're going to worry about sounds if that's their sensation that is hard for them. Oh, by the way, oftentimes sensory issues will accompany people who are on the spectrum, maybe who have autism. That's also can be combined with, autism or other things that people are dealing with, just so that you're aware. So when a person is having one of these moments where they cannot handle, their senses can't handle something that's going on around them, their anxiety goes through the roof. They oftentimes over-focus on whatever that sense is that they're dealing with, and it starts to just shut them down. And so if you know somebody who's dealing with this, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But there's another type of sensory processing disorder that most people are not aware of, and that's the type of sensory processing disorder where the person actually doesn't sense most of the things that other people sense. So they just don't catch a lot of the cues. The things going on around them. They might not smell the toast burning or know that it's in the toaster. They might not hear certain things that other people are hearing because maybe they're tuned out in a different way. They're zoning in on something different. So that's another type of sensory processing disorder. It's basically just the opposite of what I would say is more the classic type of sensory processing disorder. So that's what sensory processing disorder is. Now let's talk about what can we do to help with this high level anxiety, to help a person feel like they can be okay even when they're not sure if they can. So we're going to talk about how to set up an environment where a person with sensory processing disorder can thrive and learn some great skills for life. But before we do that, do you see that subscribe button? Click on that button now, and then you will get the opportunity of seeing more videos just like this in your feed. And don't forget to click the notification bell as well so that you are notified when new videos come out. When a person learns self-government, they learn to give themselves instructions, give themselves no answers, correct themselves, and disagree appropriately with themselves and other people, which means that there is an internal dialogue that is acknowledged and is considered to be healthy, and as it is ongoing for the person as they handle their problems on the inside. Each person's self-government is up to them, and all of us actually rely upon our ability to do 4 basic skills if we are going to be a self-governing person. So the 4 basic skills are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. When a person has sensory processing disorder, all of these skills are going to be helpful, but especially the skills accepting no answers, following instructions, and disagreeing appropriately. Now, I don't want to minimize that skill, accepting consequences, because a person cannot learn self-government unless they get the opportunity to accept their own consequences. So we definitely want to give them that chance to do that, and it's going to be vital for them. But specifically, I'd like to talk about those other 3 skills today. The 4 basic skills of self-government are actually taught in this book here, Parenting a House United. They're also taught in my TSG parenting course. And also the 4 basic skills are taught in these 4 children's books. So each one of them teaches a different one of the 4 basic skills. Now, the course and the parent book, the Parenting a House United book, they also teach the parent skills that you need for if a child is not using these 4 basic skills. I won't be going a ton into that today, but I will say that learning the parent skills for self-government is really important if you're going to help the child stay calm when you're correcting things when they don't go right. But let's talk about what skills they can use for success now. Following instructions is a great skill to start with. In fact, it's the perfect one of the 4 basic skills to begin the teaching with. To follow instruction, a person does 5 things. They look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, do the task immediately, and then check back. So how would that help a person with sensory processing disorder? Well, when a person recognizes a cue, maybe there's a trigger that they are going to be processing something they may not like to do. Well, they can use that follow instructions skill to instruct themselves to follow through with a plan. Or if the parent instructs, oh, let's get our headphones, we're going to be going into a loud place. Okay, now I'm going to put them on, and I follow the instructions for that plan. So following instructions is going to lay the foundation for the other 3 of the 4 basic skills, because some of the skill steps are repeated in some of those other steps, especially the first 2 steps, which are to look at the person and keep a calm face, voice, and body. So when a person accepts a no answer, they look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, and then drop the subject. This one is vital for a person with sensory processing disorder. When you have sensory processing disorder, everything that ignites those senses and gets you feeling triggered is basically a no answer. You can't control it all the time, so you have to accept that it's happening. And you have to learn how to cope with it. So what you do is you say that's a no answer, and then you accept the no answer calmly. You drop the subject, which means you don't think about it again. But if you do need to say something to yourself about it, instead of using a negative dialogue like I can't do this, I can't do this, instead what you do is you disagree appropriately with yourself. You say, self, I know that you think you can't do this, that you can't be around this sound, but actually you probably can. You've been around it before, or we have to start trying to get ourselves used to new sounds, so it's going to be okay to be around this sound for now, for maybe just 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then we'll be out of this area. So you are going to have a disagree appropriately moment within yourself. Now, how does a child learn to use all of these skills like disagreeing appropriately, accepting no answers, and such? Well, they use them with their parents. As they use them with you, they will then be better prepared to use them with themselves. So no matter if a person has sensory processing disorder or not, these skills are for everybody. They are adult skills, and good adults who are good at self-government know how to use these skills within themselves and in their communications with other people all of the time. You're also going to want to teach your child how you will correct them. That happens in this book, Parenting a House United. I teach that skill. So the way that you correct them will also be the way that they do self-corrections for themselves. Sometimes a person with sensory processing disorder is going to have to correct their thinking. They have a thought pattern that's based upon a trigger. That thought pattern can be adjusted if they learn how to correct that thought pattern. So they need to know they can choose their thoughts. They can also choose to give their thoughts no answers and accept the no answer. from themselves. It's powerful to learn self-government, and when you have sensory processing disorder, finally you get the skills that you need for success. For years, I brought youth into my home who were troubled, who had different ways of processing the world, and some of them had sensory processing disorder. These were some of the main skills that I taught them, as well as teaching them how to do other problem-solving techniques like SOTAS exercises, which help develop that prefrontal cortex, which can help them in so many circumstances. Find out more about how you can help your child learn these skills and others by watching the next video, which is the not-so-known secret for parenting success. Click on the link to that video now. I'll see you there.